Hello, and welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. My name is Cam, and for this video, we will be reading and discussing Exodus chapter 5. Afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, "Thus says the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." And Pharaoh said, "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, nor will I let Israel go." So they said, "The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Please, let us go 3 days' journey into the desert and sacrifice to the Lord our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword." Then the king of Egypt said to them, "Moses and Aaron, why do you take the people from their work? Get back to your labor." And Pharaoh said, "Look, the people of the land are many now, and you make them rest from their labor." So the same day Pharaoh commanded the taskmasters of the people and their officers, saying, "You shall no longer give the people straw to make brick as before. Let them go and gather straw for themselves, and you shall lay on them the quota of bricks which they made before. You shall not reduce it, for they are idle. Therefore they cry out, saying, 'Let us go and sacrifice to our God.' Let more work be laid on the men, that they may labor in it, and let them not regard false words." And the taskmasters of the people and their officers went out and spoke to the people, saying, "Thus says Pharaoh, I will not give you straw. Go, get yourself straw where you can find it, yet none of your work will be reduced." So the people were scattered abroad throughout all the land of Egypt to gather stubble instead of straw. And the taskmasters forced them to hurry, saying, "Fulfill your work, your daily quota, as when there was straw." Also, the officers of the children of Israel, whom Pharaoh's taskmasters had set over them, were beaten and were asked, "Why have you fulfilled your task in making brick both yesterday and today as before?" Then the officers of the children of Israel came and cried out to Pharaoh, saying, "Why are you dealing thus with your servants? There is no straw given to your servants. And they say to us, 'Make brick.' And indeed, your servants are beaten, but the fault is in your own people." But he said, "You are idle, idle. Therefore you say, 'Let us go and sacrifice to the Lord.' Therefore go now and work, for no straw shall be given to you, yet you shall deliver the quota of bricks." And the officers of the children of Israel saw that they were in trouble after it was said, "You shall not reduce any bricks from your daily quota." Then, as they came out from Pharaoh, they met Moses and Aaron, who stood there to meet them. And they said to them, "Let the Lord look on you and judge, because you have made us abhorrent in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servant, to put a sword in their hand to kill us." Summarizing Exodus chapter 5, Aaron and Moses tell Pharaoh to let their people go, that their God commanded that they honor him with the feast in the wilderness for 3 days. Pharaoh says that he doesn't know their God, and no, he won't let them go. Aaron and Moses warn Pharaoh that plagues may befall Egypt if they're not allowed to go. Pharaoh responds to them asking, why are they distracting the Israelites from working? And tells them, "Get back to work." Chapter 4, verse 21 says that Pharaoh's heart was hardened. Pharaoh noted that the Hebrews were many, and Moses and Aaron's request, their stunt, interfered with production. As a countermeasure to this interruption, Pharaoh told the taskmasters, the overseers, or the slave drivers to stop gathering straw for the Hebrews so they can make bricks with it. Instead, make them gather their own grass or straw to build the bricks. Also, require them to produce the same amount of bricks as before, because if they're asking to go worship God in the wilderness, they must not have enough work. And they're lazy, which is why they want to leave. Make them work harder so they won't listen to the lies of Moses and Aaron. So the Hebrews scurried to find stubble, which affected production. The taskmasters, the overseers, or the slave drivers demanded that the Hebrews produce bricks as when there was straw. to produce the same amount as before. The Israelite overseers, the Israelites and the Hebrews are the same. In my notes, I interchanged them, and they aren't interchangeable. The terms are. The Israelite overseers were beaten for not producing the same amount of work. They pleaded with Pharaoh, explaining that the new change is the reason for reduced production. Pharaoh doesn't believe them and thinks that this is a ploy to take time off so that they can honor God. He also says that things will remain the same. The Israelites won't be given straw, and they still have to produce the same amount of bricks. The Israelite overseers realized that they were in trouble because this is an impossible predicament. Aaron and Moses met the Israelite officers as they were leaving Pharaoh, and they told Aaron and Moses that things didn't go well, that Pharaoh is now determined to make the Israelites' life harder. So the chapter ends with Moses doubtfully asking God why he was sent there, because the situation got worse once he intervened, and the people still had not been delivered. Some of the highlights from Exodus chapter 5. The enslaved people have several names, which I mentioned earlier. So the terms that they have to distinguish the enslaved: the people of Israel, the sons of Israel, the children of Israel, the Hebrews, or the Israelites. Each of these terms refer to this enslaved people in the book of Exodus. In Genesis chapter 49, verse 28, Jacob/Israel calls his 12 sons the tribe of Israel. So that's where that term originates from, the children, sons of Israel, from chapter 49, verse 28. In Exodus chapter 1, verse 1, the children of Israel referred to Jacob's 12 sons, which are named in chapter 49. The same 12 sons that are in chapter 49, verse 28. In Exodus chapter 1, verse 6, Joseph and all of his relatives died. And then in verse 7, the children of Israel were fruitful and multiplied. So these are the same people. In chapter 1, verse 9, Pharaoh the Egyptian refers to these children of Israel as they had a larger population than the Egyptians. So the first term for this enslaved people are the children of Israel, the sons of Israel, the people of Israel. The second term for this enslaved group of people are Hebrews. In Genesis chapter 39, verse 14, Potiphar's wife called Joseph a Hebrew, and Joseph is the ancestor to the enslaved race in this chapter. Genesis chapter 43, verse 32, the Hebrews and the Egyptians did not eat together. So this is another, and this, the Hebrews and the Egyptians, Joseph had not revealed his identity as a Hebrew. So when his brothers came to eat at his house in chapter 43, he sat in a different room with the Egyptian servants than his brothers. And his real life brothers were Hebrews, so he's also Hebrew. That's another way to confirm this. And Joseph is the ancestor of the enslaved race, as we just said. In Exodus chapter 2, verse 6, Pharaoh's daughter found Moses as a baby, referring to him as one of the Hebrews' babies. Chapter 5, verse 1. Exodus chapter 5, verse 1. The Lord of Israel is also called in verse 3 the Lord of the Hebrews. So that also confirms that the children of Israel, the people of Israel, and the Hebrews are the same in this story. The enslaved people are Hebrews. The enslaved people are the descendants of Jacob and Joseph, and these scriptures prove that the Hebrews of Exodus refer to the same group of people. The last term are Israelites. The New International Version and the Christian Standard Bible in chapter 1 in Exodus chapter 1 verse 9 refers to the children of Israel as Israelites. The New International Version, the Christian Standard Bible, and the New Living Translation refers to chapter 2 verse 23. These versions uh, refer to this enslaved group as Israelites. But the chapter Exodus chapter 2 verse 23, the versions, the English Standard Version, the New American Standard Bible, and the King James Version of Exodus chapter 2 verse 23 refers to the Israelites as the people of Israel, the sons of Israel, or the children of Israel. So just want to re-emphasize that the people, sons, children of Israel is the same as Hebrews, that's the same as Israelites. All of these terms are referring to the enslaved group in Exodus. The next point, Moses and Aaron approached Pharaoh for time off to honor God for 3 days, and that request was denied. Keep in mind that the enslaved are in this work environment because in chapter 1 verse 10 of Exodus, a new Pharaoh began rulership over Egypt. He feared the capacity of the Hebrews and enslaved them for that reason. It wasn't financial, it was simply because the new Pharaoh feared the capacity of the Hebrews. Additionally, the Hebrews never indicated displeasure with Egyptians or any inclination to rebel against them. In chapter 43, verse 32, Egypt already had a cultural norm of valuing Hebrews in a lesser way than Egyptians. This attitude of social class did not exist to this extent with Hebrews, only with Egyptians. The request angered Pharaoh so much that he increased the difficulty in the Hebrews' workload, creating an impossible work environment. When the Hebrews could not produce at the same rate, Pharaoh called them lazy. Which leads to the next point, laziness. Laziness coming from Pharaoh is it's just golden. Pharaoh's role as ruler. He's not required to oversee, delegate, plan, or do any physical labor. The only role that Pharaoh has is to communicate his ideas to other people, who are then tasked with organizing a way to figure his plan out and bring it to fruition. So, for someone who all they has to do is communicate ideas, that person having the audacity to call someone lazy, it's just what that is, audacious. The next point, Moses quickly doubted God and himself when things got worse for the Hebrews. After Pharaoh got angry and treated the Hebrews worse, he ran to God doubtfully, asking God again why was he sent there. The next point, in chapter 3 verse 18, God instructs Moses to request 3 days off to go into the wilderness to honor God. God wanted to be honored in an unaltered part of nature. God wanted to be honored in an unaltered part of nature. Chapter 3, verse 2 through 5, God's angel and God himself spoke to Moses through a burning bush. In chapter 3, verse 1, Moses was in the backside of the desert. And in chapter 3, verse 5, God calls this place, this unaltered part of nature, God calls this place holy ground. The last point, Moses grew up privileged. first being spared by an Egyptian in chapter 2, then later adopted by an Egyptian. Then he ran away and married. In chapter 2, verse 19, he was assumed to be an Egyptian by the way he carried himself. Moses was not socialized and did not have the same social status as the other Egyptians, but yet he still saw that there was a disparity and that there was something wrong with the way that Hebrews were being treated, even though he was ethnically a Hebrew. Because he didn't have the same harsh enslaved life. But number one, he was still used as a leader. God was still able to reach him. And secondly, he still had the ability and the connection to his own to understand their position in society, even though he wasn't raised the way that they were. And he was in a position where he didn't have to be with the other Hebrews. He could have stayed in Midian, where it was peaceful for him, where he was married. But he decided to let God use him in a way to help his people. Well, and that's it for chapter 5. The next upload will be Exodus chapter 6.